Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is FBC Radio Live. It's Friday, July. I almost said January. What the hell am I thinking? July the 14th. That's right. We're in the middle of summer, folks. Not winter. We are 4 days away from NFL training camp, and John, I can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Where next week, our shows are pretty much going to be planned for us as we got NFL training camp right ahead of us.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets will be one of the first teams to report the training camp because they're going to be playing the Hall of Fame game. So I'm sure Aaron Rodgers will give us plenty of good things to talk about as he meets with the New York media, probably on a daily or every other day basis.
Oh, so you're saying when he says Hard Knocks was forced down their throats, that's not going to be the end of him talking this summer?
No. He likes to talk. The only problem is when he says things and there's pushback, he kind of pushes back against the pushback. But I think he knows what he's doing. He handles the media really well. I know Green Bay is the smallest market, but it's covered intensely because it's the entire state. It's the only thing out there. So obviously New York's a different animal. But these quarterbacks, whether Brady, Mahomes, Rodgers, they're national stars. They're covered at a national level as much as they are as a local level. So I think they handle all this stuff well. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what Hard Knocks brings us and what did the Jets bring us.
I kind of wish they could just bring back Rex Ryan just for Hard Knocks. I mean, add him to this mix, and you're talking about quite an interesting show. Obviously, we talked about Hard Knocks yesterday, and kind of some of the teams we might in history we might want to see or have seen on Hard Knocks. And we're going to get to our guy Jim Biringer here in just a little bit. We're going to talk some hockey here to wrap up the week, but more Jets news yesterday. Quinnen Williams signing a massive 4-year extension, $96 million. John, should have been a defensive end. John, what were you thinking? You could have signed a $96 million contract.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's one of the best defensive players in football. He's a terror, right? I mean, I wouldn't say quite yet, but like the next iteration of Aaron Donald, like this guy that just is impossible to block. You need two to block him. He wrecks your offense. And the thing about the Jets is they're pretty loaded at the most important positions in football, right? You've got Quinnen Williams with this contract extension. You've got a great corner in Sauce Gardner. Garrett Wilson's a top flight receiver, offensive rookie of the year last year. And then you've got Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback. Their offensive line is still a work in progress, so we'll see what happens there. Those are the five most important positions in football: a quarterback, wide receiver, left tackle, edge rusher, or if you get someone who can, force pressure from the middle like Williams and Aaron Donald, and a cornerback. So the Jets are pretty loaded in those positions. So yeah, this is a guy that you can build your defense around, and then when you add that great corner, you're on your way to building a top 5 defense, which the Jets were last year.
Well, and look, on top of that, obviously this has implications beyond just the Jets, because obviously Chris Jones is looking for a new contract in Kansas City, and this is kind of you kind of figure that maybe they were looking to this contract to kind of see where you're going to get, because you got to figure that Jones is probably going to get a little bit more. Well, at least he's going to want a little bit more, whether or not Kansas City's willing to do that. But the thing is here, there's talk that, maybe DeAndre Hopkins is waiting for Kansas City to get that deal done with Jones to free up some cap space, because right now they're right up against it, and it's not going to get much better without some sort of extension. But yeah, I mean, look, the Jets are, this is going to be a big season for the Jets for so many reasons. Obviously, they're going to be in the spotlight from day one. I mean, more so than anyone else, because, well, they're going to be on Hard Knocks, and you're going to get to see what happens inside the facility. And, I think it's a legitimate concern whether or not it's going to be a distraction. Look, this is a distraction one way or the other. It's just how much is it going to distract you from the big picture goal? And I think that's the question that a lot of coaches ask. And one of the reasons why they don't necessarily want to, there's a reason why Bill Belichick doesn't want to do this, because it's going to be a distraction. However they do it, it's always going to be taking away from things that they normally do. And this goes for every team. So to me, I think, this is a big test for the Jets. And, if they can overcome this extra heat early on, extra, attention, maybe it's going to go a long way for how they go about this entire season, because there's going to be ups and downs, there's going to be struggles, there's going to be doubts, especially for a team that hasn't won anything in a very, very long time.
Unfortunately for Belichick, he's never been eligible to be on Hard Knocks because they've never had back-to-back losing seasons, and Rodgers has never been eligible either, because the one time he had back-to-back losing seasons, they brought in a new coach, so that takes you out of the mix. So obviously, if the Patriots have a losing season, they'll be eligible next year, and NFL Films and HBO would want to document the Patriots without question, because it would be
they'll pick them before the season's over. If there's no possibility for them to have a winning season, whenever that point reaches in the season this year, if that's the case, they'll announce it right then. They'll be like, yeah, no, we're going to do the Patriots. No doubt about it.
Yeah, because there'll be other eligible teams that may want to step up and do it, but I have a feeling that the NFL may get together and say, you know what, we want the Patriots on this, so no one else accepts, so that they're forced to do it, like the Jets were this year.
Yeah.
Again, you always hear that expression, you want volunteers, not hostages. The Jets are hostages in this situation because they didn't want it. They reached out, NFL Films did, to Lions to have a repeat of last year. They said thanks, but no thanks. And the Commanders, Saints, and Bears weren't interested, so the Jets were the team that everybody wants to see. I mean, if those four eligible teams, it's not even close, which is going to be the most interesting. Again, how much access they get. And then the teams do have final say on the final cut. So, there'll be things in there that maybe Robert Saleh says, I don't want that in the finished product. So that's going to be a process. But the problem is that it was just announced, 2 days ago? A year ago, the Lions were announced as Hard Knocks back in March. So at least NFL Films and HBO can get prepared for the season. Now, all of a sudden, it's a rush to do a lot of the pre-production work that you need to do to get this thing done, because it's quality work.
Well, and
NFL Films and HBO does.
And you kind of highlighted one of the distractions. Final cut. I mean, on top of everything else that Saleh and the Jets coaching staff has to do, they have to basically micromanage what goes into this documentary. What was said, what was used. Can you use this? Can you use that? And naturally, that again, it's just. You only have so many time in a day, so it's so much time in a day. So you're going to lose something somewhere amongst all that. So I don't know. Like I said, I mean, next season again. If I highly doubt, John, and we're not going to get off on a tangent on the Patriots, but I highly doubt that they're going to have a losing season. So maybe this whole.
You want to bet on that? Because I'm
sure.
ready for you.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll bet on it. Look, I mean, as poorly as things worked out for them last year, they were just a game under 500. Or this new 17-game schedule screwing with me, man. It was so much easier with 16 games.
Just go to 18, right? I mean, eventually that's going to be the case. Go to 18.
Yeah. Well, but so to me, like, look, the whole. I don't think the Patriots got worse. I actually think they got a little bit better. So I think it's no doubt that they're going to at least win more than they lose next season. I do believe that. So we'll talk about some parameters of that bet later. But I don't want to keep our esteemed guest waiting too long. Yeah, I see him getting ready backstage. Getting the. I'm disappointed he doesn't have the shades on though. Maybe that was just a vacation mode, Jim Biringer, but he is back. He has the Devil's background behind him, but no shade. So good morning, Jim. Welcome back to the show. Oh, and he's muted. Uh-oh. Rookie mistake. Did he forget to turn his mic off? It's okay. He'll chime in when he's ready. It's all right. Luckily, we still have John here, and I'm good working on the fly here. So we'll make sure that. Nope, still nothing, Jim. Still nothing. It's all right, folks. Jim's having a little bit of audio technical difficulties. Yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put you backstage for a minute. I'm gonna let you figure it out, and then we'll bring you back in. Sound like a plan? Oh, well, let's see. He's checking it out now. Can you hear me?
Tease, right? We're just teasing the audience.
Yeah, we're teasing. Jim actually is not here. Just for those listening on audio, he is just a figment of our imagination. But he'll get it figured out. Every so often we have these technical difficulties, and we want to talk some hockey with him. But we'll go back to the excuse me, to the AFC East for a minute, and specifically the Jets, because Well, again, I mean, this is a team that you got to figure there's pressure, sure. How much pressure? I don't know, because I feel like the mentality going into this season, or like how it's going to viewed, is I think the expectations for the fans are going to be high, but I don't think it's like if they don't win a Super Bowl, um, if they don't win a Super Bowl, it's not like it's going to be a massive disappointment, because we talked about this before, John. You know, you're not bringing in, like, yeah, you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers and you're going to be better. I mean, and you already laid it out. They have a very good team outside of the quarterback, and they desperately needed the quarterback. So I feel like just, having Aaron Rodgers is obviously going to raise expectations, but I don't think losing or not getting to a Super Bowl is going to be a disappointment. I think the Jets players or Jets fans will be happy making the playoffs and possibly an AFC Championship game run.
Yeah, I'd say the baseline is divisional round, because we all agree that Kansas City and Cincinnati are the two best teams in the AFC. So if you get to the divisional round, chances are you're going to be playing in Cincinnati or Kansas City. You most likely would be an underdog in that game. Could you beat one of those teams? Sure. Could you beat both of them? That would be a difficult task. But I think if they can get to the divisional round, which means win the division and be one of the top two seeds, or win the division, host a playoff game in the wild card weekend, win that, and then move on to the divisional round, I think that would be a successful season. But again, the shelf life of Aaron Rodgers is very limited to 2 years, maybe three. I don't even know.
I think two's the max. There. I think two's the max. So
yeah, and look, Brady did it, and Brady's the most unique of all. Matt Stafford did it, but let's not forget, Matt Stafford went to a team that had made the playoffs the year before,
and gone to a Super Bowl recently. And I always made that argument that, like, look, I mean, Tampa needed a quarterback. They needed Tom Brady. They didn't need a quarterback. They needed Tom Brady to take them to the next level. The Rams needed a really good quarterback, and that's what Matt Stafford did, and that's what Matt Stafford gave them. So, all right, let's try this again.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Perfect. I was hoping that I wasn't going to disappoint the listening audience out there. I'm talking about bringing Jim on, talking hockey, and then I say something and nothing.
It happens. It happens.
Like, yeah.
Hey, you know what? Vacation mode's over. Nashville. I'm recovered from Nashville. No shades today. So that day that if you guys watched the free agency show, then you saw I was in rough shape that day. So.
Oh, I thought that was just a style choice.
Maybe it'll be a style choice going forward. Who knows?
No, we obviously we had you on earlier this week talking kind of, just general hockey stuff, the Brinket trade. But I did want to wrap up this week, because we are, kind of getting into the slowest part of the NHL offseason now that the hype of the draft and free agency has really sort of simmered down a bit. I mean, everyone's scattered, everyone's going out. The Bruins are doing bear tracks, their off-season thing, following around players. So it's the off-season, okay? So I wanted you to kind of help us kind of frame the off-season moving forward. Like how, first off, free agency gave us quite a bit of action. I thought it was a pretty busy free agency period. You've brought it up several times. The salary cap was the winner. It was by far the dominating theme in all of these contracts. I mean, I don't think any of us figured that some of these players were going to be seeking 1-year deals and, kind of the bet on yourself type mentality. But that's where we are right now. So I guess I'll throw you a vague question, or broad question rather, not vague. I haven't had enough caffeine today, so I'm mixing up words here. A broad question. Yeah. I got my 5-hour energy right here. I'm working on it. The teams that look, there's a lot. Like, I don't know what the Bruins are going to be next year. I know they're not going to be as good as they were in the regular season last year. But I want to know about the teams that maybe flew a little bit under the radar with some of these moves and might exceed expectations. So, like, you're looking at it and say, Which, I mean, New Jersey made some great moves. We obviously know that. Is it going to be enough to bring them to the top? We don't know yet. But how about, say some of these fringe teams?
I'll give you a team. I really liked what they did is Nashville. I like the guys that they brought in, the Ryan O'Reillys, the Luke Shens. You keep your players in Cody Glass. You move out Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, Barry Trotz, really changing the culture there. Again, are they in the murky middle still? Maybe. We know if they keep Saros, they're going to be a playoff team because he just keeps them there. Do they make a deep run? I don't know. If they trade Saros, this team's in a rebuilding phase and they're going to go. But I like what they did. I like what Chicago did, even though they're not going to be that good. You just surround the young kid and Connor Bedard with like a Taylor Hall. You keep a Nick Foligno. You bring in a Corey Perry. Guys like that just to insulate the kid. Those two teams to me did. I like what Florida did too. I mean, Florida, they have a lot of injuries coming up. We're not sure the statuses of Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour, but we know that they signed Evan Rodriguez to a 4-year deal. I like the Oliver Ekman-Larsson signing as well. They picked up Mike Riley on the back end. They filled in needs on the back end with some 1-2 year deals for guys that you're not sure they're depth players, but they're they can help your lineup. Again, to me, I think Florida is going to be battling along with teams like Ottawa and Buffalo and Detroit. Like teams like that they're going to be battling for one of those spots. And you can put Toronto in there. Are we putting Tampa in there? I don't know. I think so. I mean, they're still the Lightning. And they're rested now. I know they're going to be different. Ross Colton's gone, but you bring in guys that that can fill roles with. That's what they do, and they have Tanner Jeannot still. So I like Tampa. You look at LA. LA's strong down the middle. Deneau, you got Kopitar re-signed. Dubois, they're going to be a tough out. Is Connor Brown really the answer for Edmonton? Not sure. I mean, again, Connor McDavid and Connor Brown played with the Erie Otters. That was lifetimes ago. I mean, can they rekindle the magic? We'll see. Vegas is still a strong contender to me in the West. Do you look at Colorado? Are they better? A little bit. I think Jonathan Drouin's an underrated signing.
Vegas has got to be the favorite still, right? I mean, forget about Vegas. Vegas
forget about
odds.
The odds.
Yeah, forget about the odds. Like looking at it from a practical standpoint, Vegas. I mean, you have to make Vegas the favorites still, right? To repeat.
I don't see why they're not. Like outside the numbers, which we have up, it makes zero sense to me how they're not the favorite to repeat. To me, they are because they lost Riley Smith. Okay, you still have Logan Thompson, Aiden Hill, and you kept Ivan Barbashev. And oh, by the way, you still have the top line of Eichel, Marchessault, and Barbashev together. They can plug and play players. Bruce Cassidy's still a coach. All this team does is make history. So I don't see why this team isn't a favorite to repeat.
Look, and they were the top team in the West. It wasn't like they just caught fire late in the season and went on a night's run. It's like, no, they were very good all season, kind of wire to wire. So if you remember very early on, and I do, and it brings tears to my eyes because both the Bruins and Vegas Golden Knights, first 10 games or so of the season, I think combined they lost like 3 games, 10 games each. So we're talking a total of like 20, 25 games, and you kind of they kind of got lost in the mix as the Bruins went on and kept winning, and Vegas kind of fell back a little bit, but relative to where the Bruins were, they fell far behind. But the reality of it was they were the best team in the West pretty much wire to wire. And so to me, I'm looking at it like, forget about odds, forget about what the Vegas casinos and odds makers say. Yeah, to me, they have to be the favorites, not just in the West, but just in general. Because again, I think the East, there's a lot of, kind of like you were talking, like Tampa should be more rested, but are they going to regain their championship form? I don't know. is Toronto. I mean, Toronto could be, we've talked about Toronto. They could be great in the regular season. I just don't care. Until they're hoisting the Stanley Cup, I'm giving them no chance.
No.
You know what I mean? That's just, at this point, I have to see it to believe it. And with Boston, it's like, yeah, we understand where they're going, but they're going to take a step back. But even a step back could mean they still have more than 100 points. I mean, obviously, a lot of this has to do with what happens with Patrice Bergeron moving forward and kind of the domino effect, whether or not he comes back. But like, you're talking about an East that's filled with a lot of potential. A lot of these teams have a lot of potential, but the crazy thing is, and this will bring a smile to your face, maybe the Devils are the best poised, at least moving forward, because, you know, they're the ones that are, I guess, have the clearest path to success. And by that, I mean, they've made proactive moves. They're on the rise. This is a team that's on the rise, not one like the Bruins that have been up there for a while, but, you know, again, they've kind of plateaued to the point where they can't get over the hump. The Devils are still fresh. They're still riding that high, going forward. Eventually, you know, if they don't get over the hump, they'll do the same thing. They'll plateau and fall out, and, you know, kind of like what the Buffalo Bills, I believe, are doing in the NFL right now. But right now, you got to look at the Devils and maybe Florida, just because they were just in the final. But I'd put more faith in New Jersey being the team that ultimately is the best in the East.
Yeah,
right
I think
now.
New Jersey's up there. I think if they get a goaltender, again, Connor Hellebuck or Gibson or one of those guys, I think then you could say, yeah, they're definitely the favorites. I think you got to throw Carolina up there too.
Mm-hmm.
What they did, they still have their three-headed monster. They kept guys around. They add Michael Bunting. Are they going to add Tarasenko? What about Carlson? Could Tarasenko go to Ottawa? Could Carlson go to Pittsburgh? Again, a lot of teams got older too in that Metro division. Like, you look at some of the oldest teams in the league right now. It's the Rangers, the Islanders, the Penguins, it's the Capitals.
Mm-hmm.
I know everybody wants to praise Kyle Dubas for what he did. I'm still saying, look, Pittsburgh is still an older team. They're a fringe team. If they get in, are they just a one-and-done team? Is what I've seen since 2019. They're just a one-and-done team. By the time they get there, they just don't really have anything left. Florida, to me, is a team that could miss the playoffs because of the injuries on the back end. Now, we'll see, but they have to get off to a strong start. You can't be playing catch-up again. You played with fire once. You got away with it. I don't think you can do it again. Similar to what Ottawa has to go through in Buffalo and the Detroits, you got to start strong to keep yourself in contention in case you have a slide, because there's always happens. There's always a slide. You always fall off of your pace a little bit. Are the Bruins, to me, I think, are in a similar position to where I had them last year. They're going to have to try to survive and try to find a way to make the wild card, because that's what they are. And are they a 100-point team? If they keep their goaltending, yes. Are they a top 3 team in the Atlantic? Maybe. But I think they're going to struggle if they don't get at least one of Bergeron or Krejci to come back, because you're going to have Pavel Zacha and Charlie Coyle down your middle. Now, they could go out and get a center, and if the decision comes sooner rather than later, I think that helps them go get somebody. But again, the further this drags out, the less the Bruins can do, because training camp's right around the corner, with about a little over a month before 2 months before everybody starts coming back. So you need to take care of business, and you got to get it done quickly. We're going to see where teams fall in. Again, you could say this team, that team won the offseason. It's all well and good, but you got to perform on the ice. And yeah, the Devils did great things. They have to back up what they did last year. Yeah,
and that's, and that's the key thing. It's like you have to. It's a long season. You're going to have to perform, and and to your point, I think it's far more important to get a guy like Bergeron back for the Bruins, not only just because he's your captain, but I mean the face-off. I mean, Krejci's a good face-off guy, but you're hard pressed to find anyone better than Patrice Bergeron, even at his age. And of course, I mean this is Mr. Two-way. Mr. Defensive forward here, and he's a guy that he comes back, and all of a sudden you can say, yeah, this Bruins team could get to that 100-point plateau and definitely be a top 3 team in the Atlantic. And I think luckily the one good thing that came out of, hopefully that came out of last season is, if you don't quite get 65 wins, maybe you just don't care. And maybe it's more or less like, okay, they're going to struggle in the regular season. There's going to be ups and downs. I don't care. I just want to see the playoffs. And I think hopefully that's the that's the mentality that Bruins fans use moving forward. So we are going to obviously throughout the offseason, or at least throughout training camp and heading into the season, which in reality is just, I mean, it's not that far away. I mean, we talk about just getting into the offseason. Well, we're going to blink and the off season is going to be over. So, but we're going to be talking to Jim quite a bit throughout that process. And like I said, I think, you know, especially the day that if the Devils get their goalie, I think you're going to be pretty happy there.
I think so. I think if they can land a goaltender, New Jersey has the potential to really be a Stanley Cup contender for many years to come, and especially this year, because they can land a guy like that. Now you're going toe-to-toe with some of the best goalies, and most of the best goalies right now reside in the Eastern Conference, those top-tier guys with the Sorokins, the Shesterkins, the Vasilevskis, guys like that. And if you have that goaltender with that team, the way the young players are coming along, New Jersey can make some noise. Again, expectations, how do they handle it? They have to follow things up. You're getting guys that want to play there now. That's something you didn't see a few years ago. New Jersey is on the rise, and they're steadily on the rise, and they're coming. And we're going to see what they're going to be made of this year. There's going to be a lot of teams after them. There's going to be a lot of teams after Vegas and Colorado and all those teams. But look, I will throw another team out there that maybe flew under the radar. They still have some work to do, but Dallas with Matthew Shane, I like what they did. If they can fix up their D a little bit, Dallas could be a team that can make some noise again next year. But again, the three best teams to me right now reside in that Pacific Division, with the Vegas Golden Knights leading the way. And if LA wants to be a contender this year, they're going to have to find a way to beat the Oilers or come in first place.
Yeah. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I mean, that's, and to your point about Dallas, you know, this is a team that not, you know, just a few years ago, obviously was in the Stanley Cup final. You know, they've been there for a while. You know, this isn't a team that just, you know, came up out of nowhere, but is it finally going to be their year to break through and win? Who knows? I mean, that's what we saw. That's what we've been seeing with Vegas for the last handful of years. They took a step back, obviously, before they got through that threshold. But, you know, this was a team that obviously first season in the league, they go to the Stanley Cup final, and then they were always just kind of there.
Right.
Their presence was felt, and I think that's what you're getting with Dallas a little bit. So, all right, that's going to do it for us here today. Jim, thank you very much once again for joining us. John, thank you for talking New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers. I know you very much enjoyed that. And thank you to all the listeners out there and viewers for listening, watching, and supporting us all this time. So we will see you on Monday when we hit the air live again. And like I said, NFL training camp next week, NHL training camp just a few weeks away. And just like that, we're going to be right back into winter sports before we know it. So thank you, everyone. And we'll talk to you soon.